Dear chess friends, welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a very spectacular gameplay by LEVON ARONIAN against Zoltan Medvegy back from 2004 in a wild Nimzo-Indian Defense, and I think you really like this game. I think you will be very impressed by this line that LEVON ARONIAN will introduce to us now in this game, because here in this game LEVON ARONIAN will play such a beautiful, such an amazing piece sacrifice in an early stage of the game as main theory against the Nimzo-Indian Defense. So it's not one of those positional battles that you see many times in the Nimzo-Indian. It's really sharp tactical game, in my opinion, really an instructive game also, because I think you could use maybe this attacking method here by LEVON ARONIAN in your home preparation against the Nimzo-Indian Defense, because I still think that many of us have problems, many of us are troubled, of course, by play against the Nimzo-Indian Defense. So maybe, as I said, this is a game for you. So put your seatbelts on and enjoy in really sharp attacking game against the Nimzo-Indian Defense. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. LEVON opened with the move d4, knight Qf6 by Zoltan Medvegy. We have c4, e6, and now here LEVON invites, of course, Zoltan to go maybe into the Nimzo-Indian Defense with the move knight to c3. Here LEVON doesn't want to play the anti-Nimzo or counter Nimzo-Indian setup with the move knight to f3. We have bishop to b4 by Zoltan Medvegy. Now still many moves can be played. You can play a3, queen to b3, queen to c2, I don't know, e3, f3, g3, even knight to f3 is possible. So then Nimzo-Indian has many deviations, has many sidelines, but still, in my honest opinion, still the best way and the most common way is to play the move e3, going into the normal variation. Again, black has many choices. Black can play d5, c5, b6, even bishop to c3 is a possibility, but I think the normal idea of the Nimzo-Indian to go immediately with bishop to c3 here would be simply too early. You can, of course, give up the bishop for a knight, and after b takes c3, you're trying, of course, to battle somehow the dark square to d6, e5, c5, b6, bishop to b7, and similar methods. But I think this would be simply too early to give up the bishop pair for a knight here without even being challenged with move a3. Black can, I think, give up at least then afterwards the bishop for a knight when white is playing the move a3. Then, of course, it's perfectly fine. There is another pawn on dark squares, and then after b takes c3, white's dark square bishop would be simply out of game, because many pawns would be simply on dark squares. Now, after look at this, b takes c3, this bishop can be also included into the game through the square a3. So that's why I think you have to at least wait from black's perspective, white to play the move a3, and then you can give up the bishop for a knight. What also black can do is, of course, after move e3 is, of course, to go normal into normal structures with the move b6. Can, of course, also hit the center with the move d5. Then I think we should play simply like something like queen to a4, simply hitting the bishop, then knight to c6, and bishop to d2 is a solid line. After c5 or something, then I think the most important idea of this normal variation in the Nimzo-Indian Defense comes here. We play simply knight to e2, and now again after something like, I don't know, d5, we can simply again release the pressure and then play a3, because we don't have any more to mess up our pawn structure after something like bishop to c3, knight to c3. Whatever happens, still we're keeping the healthy structure in the center of the board, and we keep our bishop pair. I'm not saying this is completely winning or something for white, but I think this is a solid line for white. As I said, you're keeping everything compact, everything glued together. Bishop pair is perfectly fine, and we don't have pawn weaknesses. We don't have this usual double pawn structures that you get in the Nimzo-Indian Defense. So as I said, here after move e3, Zoltan Medvegy's response was b6, going into the so-called St. Petersburg variation, trying, of course, to play bishop to b7 and then to have a great grip around the square e4. LEVON continues with knight to e2, connects now this knight to this other knight on c3. Now the main idea is, as I said, to play a3, and then after something like bishop to c3, then we can recapture. We don't have to again mess up our pawn structure here on the c file. We have bishop to a6. Now comes the so-called Bronstein variation. This is a very unpleasant sometimes a method to meet, because first of all your c4 pawn is hanging, but LEVON continues with his normal plan. We have a3, we have bishop to e7. Now if, for instance, again bishop to c3 happens, then we have knight takes c3. This pawn is protected. We keep our pawn structure again healthy, and again we continue the game with an amazing bishop pair. So it's also not a good line then for black. So here, that's why Zoltan Medvegy tried bishop to e7, but now LEVON continues with knight to f4, connects now the bishop to to the pawn on c4, and now the fun starts. Here Zoltan plays d5. He wants, of course, after c takes d5 to trade off the bishops on light squares, because many times when you play the move d5 from black's perspective, and imagine now this bishop being here on b7, then this bishop is not so good. It's paralyzed by its own pawn structure. So that's why with the move d5, Zoltan Medvegy is saying, I will give up my bishop on a6 for your bishop on f1 and continue the game with the good bishop here on e7 that controls, of course, both of these diagonals. So giving up the light square bishop is, I think, also a common idea in the Nimzo-Indian defense. But here LEVON ARONIAN plays now, as I said, really a spectacular line. He plays now c takes d5. After bishop to f1, here LEVON doesn't want to get the piece back. Still, you can play king to f1 or rook to f1, but here LEVON continues with d takes e6. Really wild stuff. Look at this. What should black do? Obviously, you have to retreat to a6, but let's see also if you maybe are trying to give up your piece back in this way. Then still, look at this, e takes f7, king to f7. We don't have to even pick up the bishop. That's not the point here. You can, of course, play something like bishop to b7, but now the queen is coming into the game, rook to b7. But in the beginning, I think also after bishop to g2, you can play now knight to, first, of course, e takes f7, and then knight takes g2, and white should be much better. So that's why after d takes e6, Zoltan Medvegy retreated here to a6. Here, LEVON ARONIAN continues with e takes f7. We have king to f7, and now I think it's the first critical moment that I think you should memorize in this line. Queen to b3 and e4 are now the best moves by white, but queen to b3 is actually maybe even a tiny little inaccuracy. It seems so that this move is more aggressive. It seems so that this move should be played for sure, but actually this move can be met with king to e8, and then you try maybe e4 later. You're trying to do something, but now after queen to d7, e5, actually black can sacrifice the piece back. That's now the only defensive way here for black to continue the game. After something like e takes f6, bishop to f6 is going to happen. You are vulnerable a little bit here on light squares. Pawn on d4 is weak. Still playable for both sides, but I think this line is more complicated. This line is more aggressive also for black, so black has also, I think, here at least some kind of counterplay. So that's why after king to f7, the best way here is to proceed with the move e4. This is the way to go. Look at it. What should black do? Black's best move, actually, that's suggested by top engines, is to play the move bishop to c4, controlling finally the light squares, but still it's very complicated. We play bishop to e3, normal development. We don't have so much compensation for the lost pawn. The main compensation is, of course, the powerful center that's controlling now this 4 squares, and also the exposed king. So at least we have something, and of course we gain some pawns while we sacrificed the light square bishop. So here the best way, actually, bishop to e3 would be here for white. This wasn't playing the game, but of course we want to study some theory here. After bishop to e3, black would have done many choices. For instance, if he tries g5, if he tries maybe to attack your knight on f4, then we play simply queen to c4. This is now the best way. After something like b5, now we pick up the piece. You can, of course, pick up maybe this one, but then also your bishop is hanging on c4. If you play here bishop to b5, then we first deliver check, and then we simply pick up the piece. Look at this. This comes, of course, with a check, and the game is over, I think, here for black. If you step back here to f8, then knight to e6 leads into a fork against the king and the queen. So this is not working. In the beginning, after this move bishop to e3, we have seen now this line with g5. What you could do is maybe normal development with knight to c6, but then again we have this one, b3. We kick away the bishop drops back. Now we continue with b4. Again, the bishop is trying to stay on this diagonal, but now we play a very important move, rook to c1. Whatever you do, let's see, for instance, if you try rook to e8, then we play knight to e2. You cannot, of course, pick up here with the knight on e2 immediately, because again you get this unpleasant check and the game is over. I think here what you could do is play maybe here something like b5, but actually we can even sack the rook here. Look at this, rook to c4, b takes c4, d4, queen to c2, hit simply the piece here. Now we again deliver a check, and again I think this is a messed up game. In the next move we'll pick up simply the knight on c6, so I think it's enough compensation for the lost exchange. For white, we have the pole for center, we have a great activity. It's simply not working here for black. So here, as we said, after knight to c6, we continue with b3, then b4, bishop to c4, rook to c1. Here also a5 maybe is a line, but then we simply continue with e5, and in one moment you have to play something like, I don't know, knight to d5, but now the main goal is this one, e6. Then we play knight takes d5, bishop to d5, and now queen to h5. Get simply the piece back. This is game over, I think, again here for black. Very wild stuff. Really spectacular way to play against the Nimzo-Indian Defense. So here, as I said, e4, the best way in the beginning instead of this queen to b3 method. So here Zoltan Medvegy, instead of this move bishop to c4 that we have analyzed now, played c5, but now LEVON ARONIAN shows his great preparation in this line. First of all, e5, the knight doesn't have good squares. If you step back to d7, then queen to f3 is, I think, immediately winning. There is this attack against the rook, and also the possibility of the discovered attack against the king on f7. So that's why after e5, Zoltan continued with rook to e8, LEVON plays bishop to e3, controls further the d4 square, knight to c6, queen to b3 by LEVON, c4. Zoltan is trying to somehow lock the diagonal on light squares. LEVON continues with his double attack, queen to a4. We have knight to a5 by Zoltan Medvegy. He is defending the position somehow, and of course now finally e takes f6 by LEVON ARONIAN. So LEVON has his piece back, and of course black is continuing the game with the bishop pair, but still I would say this is much better because of the endangered position by black's king. Finally, LEVON continues with kingside castling. You cannot pick up the pawn on d4 because of rook from a to d1. You simply win the piece. So after kingside castling, we have queen to d6 by Zoltan Medvegy, knight to d5, attacking further the position. Here we have bishop to b7, knight takes f6, queen to f6, and now d5. So okay, maybe this is nothing spectacular. Black is continuing the game only with down a pawn, but I think still the king's activity is something that bothers here black in the continuation of the game. Here Zoltan tried to somehow attack this unpleasant pawn on d5, but LEVON simply protect this and has now the opportunity to play something like bishop to d4, including maybe somehow the queen into the attack. And the problem is also with this move d5 is that, of course, LEVON ARONIAN paralyzed this knight. The knight can be maybe moved here to b3, but then again it's out of game. It doesn't have so great squares on the board, so with this move d5, this knight on a5 is, as I said, simply out of game. Bishop to c8. Here Zoltan Medvegy is trying somehow to play maybe some attacking chances here around the square g2, maybe queen to g6, bishop to h3, but LEVON is not allowing that. Plays now bishop, rook to d4, king to g8, rook to f4, rook to f3. Great maneuver by the rook here by LEVON. If you play here something like bishop to g4, this wouldn't be so good. Then look at this, rook to g3, then afterwards bishop to d4, h3. I don't know, many great attacking chances here for white. After rook to f3, we have bishop to d7, we have queen to b4, queen to c2, h3, bishop to c8, and now king to h2. What should black do again? If you try bishop to b7, then we simply, I don't know, play something like rook to d1, again protect everything. We don't have to even rush here. We play just rook to g3, you try maybe to cover the g7 square, and now with rook to d4, I don't know, rook to g4, bishop to d4, we would simply continue the attacking flow around the square g7, so this is not working here for black. After move king to h2, here queen to b3 was played by Zoltan Medvegy, but now a beautiful move here by LEVON, bishop to g5. In the game, rook to d7 was played, and now LEVON played the beautiful move. After that move, Zoltan Medvegy resigned. So maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the winning idea here for white. White moves and wins the game. What would you do now? Okay, the winning idea here is a beautiful rook to e1. If this one is taken, then of course the rook gets deflected from the back rank, and then it's a checkmate. If you don't react, of course, if you play something else, if you play rook to d8, then we'll simply pick up the piece again on d8. So it's simply not working. So it's a devastating position here for black. So after rook to e1, Zoltan Medvegy simply resigned. Pooh. I hope that you really like this line. This is really an aggressive method. Probably this could happen to you because it's very often played line here by black. This first of all b6 idea in the beginning, then afterwards followed with bishop to a6. But I think you can apply this method introduced to us by LEVON ARONIAN, and really a spectacular way to meet the Nimzo-Indian defense. So okay, if you want to see more about the Nimzo-Indian, you can check out also playlists here on my YouTube chess channel. And if you want to see other spectacular, beautiful chess games like this, check out our best chess games of all time series, and also our the Come to Chess Games Played by Computer series, where we analyze some beautiful stockfish games. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.